Today we're going to be discussing some things that are in the news and that I have brought up on many occasions on this show. As you can see behind me, I have the United States flag behind me, and I have the symbol for the United Nations. These are the two main groups that I would like this information to get to. Now, this is an ongoing show or informative podcast where I've been informing or enlightening certain groups of the United States government as well as other governments and world leaders about what's going on here in North America, the United States of America. Just recently, I've been bringing attention to a particular group in this country, and it's the African American community. Now, I'm using them because they're let's just call them a case study. We can look at them to see on how certain groups or certain shadow organizations or shadow governments or secret agencies move and how they operate. Just recently in this country, we had the overturning of affirmative action, which was a law which allowed certain universities, to allow universities to use race as a determining factor on admitting students into certain universities or schools. That has been overturned. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because it's connected to something else, which is reparations. Now, every time there's something that attacks, that is in the news, or something that can be beneficial to this group of people, the African American community. Now, whether you're African American or not, it doesn't matter, because what we're doing is we're looking at how these groups move and how they operate here in North America. And the same tactics that they use here in North America, they are using elsewhere around the globe. Now, let me explain. The Affirmative Action Law, which was overturned, as big and as significant as that is, leading up to this, there wasn't a lot of fanfare. There wasn't even a lot of attention given to this. What we saw was, leading up to this, there was nothing but distractions leading up to the moments or the days leading up to the overturning of this law, affirmative action. Now, this had made it all the way up to the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, which shut this whole affirmative action law down. Now, the community who it was originally created to help will no longer be benefiting from that law. Now, keep in mind, there are other groups who benefited from that affirmative action law, such as the Latino community. They were greatly affected by the law. A lot of Latino children made it to some of the most prestigious universities in the country under that affirmative action law, as well as Asians. A lot of different groups made it because the law didn't just affect African Americans, it affected minorities in a whole. Now, I'll get back to that. But leading up to that, especially in the African American community, there have been nothing but distractions. Now, one of the main distractions leading up to this was a incident that happened in Chicago where a mother and a son were attacked by another gentleman. The mother was punched in the face. Her 14-year-old son came behind her and killed the person that was attacking his mother. It was all caught on tape, and it was a very disturbing video. Now, that has been in the headlines leading up to this affirmative action law being overturned in the land, which made it all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, as this is happening, the demonization of this group, the African American community, who these laws were supposed to help, we're being bombarded with stories of the same people who these laws were trying to help. We're getting bombarded with stories of the same group being demonized, where you have, instead of the affirmative action being, let's just say, put on the news to inform people what is happening, this law is no longer going to be in effect. We're not seeing that. And to also, let me make this clear, as much as I try to pay attention to what's going on in this community, I myself had no idea that this law was up, had made it to the Supreme Court, and that it was going to be taken down, struck down. Now let me explain. Now, with all the work that I've been doing for this community and enlightening different groups and organizations about what was happening here in North America with this group, and I've talked on many occasions on this show about what happens to those who try to enlighten the rest of the world or the country about some of the things that are happening to this community, and what happens to its leaders when they try to start exposing these things. Now, leading up to this, around the same time when this law was being overturned, which made it all the way to the Supreme Court, I was in the hospital battling internal bleeding, which I made a police report saying I had been poisoned. I had been poisoned. I made a police report about it and made other reports to other agencies informing them of what had happened to me, and I know how it happened. I know where the substance came from. Now, all of this is happening around the same time that this affirmative action law had been struck down. Now, I need anyone who's involved with any of these symbols, the United Nations or the United States of America. When these things happen, this is a strike on the African American community. So the people who were behind this, who are behind the veil, who thought it was important, and I'll get back to why would they shut a law like that down, and what are my feelings on that law being shut down. It's not about that. I'll discuss that later. But the people who thought it was important to have that law struck down thought it was important enough to have me struck down at the very same time. Now, what I'm saying here on this show is that there is a group or entity or agency that has made it their business to try to silence me and the message that I'm trying to get across to these two groups here. To back up some of the claims that I'm saying, I've taken videos of some of the issues that I've had of me. Look, I have videos where I was battling at the same time the affirmative action law was being shut down. I have videos and pictures of me where I'm battling internal bleeding. I mean, my bed sheets were soaked in blood, and I immediately went to the emergency room. This is all happening at the same time as this affirmative action law is being struck down in the Supreme Court. Now, the mind that would try to shut me down and shut this law down at the exact same moment. It's only by the grace of God that I'm still able to speak to you today. By the grace of God. You know, and to all those who are behind the assassination attempt on me to stop this message, you may have succeeded in striking down that affirmative action law in the Supreme Court, but job halfway done. I'm still here and alive to give this message. Now, I'm going to be doing more on this, but for the sake of time, I just wanted to get this message out before I proceed on giving more information on this. But just know, when you start down the realm of informing people, these are some of the things you have to deal with. Now, I've did enough information, if I've done enough work, and I have enough information to prove that there is something going on, that there's a shadow government, there is a type of entity that's behind all this, who is trying to, let's say, create a type of controlling system down here in this country or on this planet. If you look at what's happening here in the United States, what's happening with the African American community, you can look at what's happening in your own country on how they're doing it. Because this is not just limited to the African American community. They're using these tactics on the world. And it's a small group of people who are doing it. I have enough information where I can point to the groups and entities who are behind it. I can show how they're all interconnected, all working together, and some of the tactics they're using to keep perpetuating what they're doing. People, we're in a very troubling time where they can just blatantly come out and try to assassinate me and take down the affirmative action laws in this country at the very same time. Now, I may post pictures of some of the things I went through dealing with the internal bleeding. I'm talking about pints of blood just coming out of me due to a poisoning. Sent me to the emergency room during the same time that affirmative action law was being struck down. The people who were behind this thought they were going to be able to take down two birds with one stone. But you missed mightily, and I'm here to tell you that today. And this message this message won't get stopped. This message will be heard, and I will continue to inform those who want to listen. Now, I've taken great strides in trying to keep my energy clean, try to keep the information as tangible as possible. So no matter what area you're in, as far as where you're coming in at this information, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're religious, or whether you're spiritual, or whether you're not even in this country, you can look at what they're doing to the African American community in this country and how they're using the techniques and the tactics and spreading them all over the globe. So if you're in the United Nations, I'm going to have to ask you, pay close attention to this channel and everything that I say in regards to the affirmative action, to reparations, and to these shadow governments and how it's affecting everything. Now, when I say everything, it taps into the schools, It taps into your grocery stores, to your diet. It taps into who's medicating you. It taps into the medical system. It taps into all that. The people who are behind this are in complete control, and now they're trying to tighten their grip. Now, I'll talk more on this for the sake of time. Please stay tuned for part 2. Have a good day.